means that voting is underway here. I'm told it takes upwards of 20 to 30 minutes for all votes to be cast. Senator Shelley Moore, Capito, West Virginia, joining us right now. Senator, explain this process now. I guess anyone of Republicans who would have wanted to vote against Ms. DeVos would have done so already. We know of the two. Do you know of any others, or would they have long ago telegraphed that?
Well, I think that we would know what the exact vote count is, and the margins are very thin on everything, and so I think with great assurity we'll say it's going to be a 50-50 tie, and Vice President Pence will come in and break the tie, which I think is very historic. I think it's the only time for a cabinet secretary that the Vice President has actually broken that tie.
What do you make of that, Senator, that many on the left are trying to make hay of it, to say even if she gets in, she's damaged goods? Sometimes you get in, it doesn't, people soon forget the vote. But that this will weigh on her and hold the leash on her. What do you make of that?
I got to think of, what I look at is she's going to be Secretary of Education. What more important issue before all of us than the education of our children and grandchildren for the next generation? We should be supportive, once the voting is done, we should be supportive of that nominee to make sure that the bill that we passed last year, bipartisan, every student succeeds, which pushes much of the decision-making to the states and local communities, which is what the majority of Congress wanted and the President signed, President Obama. That's what we want to look at, her implementing the wishes of Congress and really the wishes of the local communities.
Now, the rollout after Ms. DeVos, I guess, is Jeff Sessions for Attorney General, Steve Mnuchin for Treasury, Tom Price, Health and Human Services, none of whom are expected to have any trouble ultimately getting full Senate confirmation. But a devil of a time getting there. In fact, this president has the distinction, I guess, through no fault of his own, of having the smallest cabinet at this point in his young presidency. And Democrats are using all levers to make sure they're legally and parliamentarily doing it. But what message do you think that's sending?
Well, I think it's a message of dysfunction. It's a message that the Senate Democrats are not ready to work, are not ready to do the traditional thing, which is to give the president his ability, any president, the ability to move forward with the projects and the will of the people that was expressed during the election. So it has been slow walked. Historically, we've had many more confirmations by this time in a bipartisan way. And even if with fiery hearings and ability to express yourself, the Democrats aren't even doing that. They didn't show up to my committee meeting, which is EPW, to even voice their opinion on Scott Pruitt. To me, it's too much obstructionism. It's time to lay down our arms. People are not sending us here to have this constant bickering, and we could be doing a lot to shorten the time frames if the Democrats would cooperate, absolutely.
All right, and Scott Pruitt up for the EPA job, again, not in peril, yes, but again, part of the process where this drags on. We have seen a number of sightings, Senator, of Neil Gorsuch, of course, the president's choice to fill the Supreme Court seat of Antonin Scalia. And there's talk back and forth that he is winning over some Democrats, maybe Dianne Feinstein, who met with him briefly yesterday. I don't know of other Democrats, but that one of the issues I heard come up is that Democrats won't get into a constitutional fight on this one. They're saving it for the next Supreme Court pick. Have you heard anything like that?
It's extremely, I've heard that theory, yes. But let's look at who we're talking about. We're talking about a mainstream judge who's very well respected, a judge's judge. I got to meet him last week. He came by the office. Just a straight up great American. And it's not easy. He said, his guiding principle is to always to do right, or try to do what's right, and to have the courage to express your opinion. I think this is what we want. We want a judge that adheres to the Constitution, to the law. He's conservative. I like that. But I think if you look at him in the whole, I don't see how many people could really object to somebody like Neil Gorsuch serving as our Supreme Court justice. Now, what happens after that is a whole other story.
Whether it's 50-plus votes or 60-plus votes, I'm hearing that Mitch McConnell, of course, keeps saying that in his role as Senate leader, that the judge will get approved and will be sitting on the Supreme Court. Do you take him to mean that if it looks unlikely that he could get 60 votes, Republicans are ready with the so-called nuclear option to make it a simple majority, and would you be okay with that?
You know, I don't think it's time to make that statement as to whether anybody's ready or what I would think at the time. I think we've got to let the process move forward. We are seeing Democrats who are saying, let's give him his day in court. Let's have him have the ability to make his case before the Senate, talking about Judge Gorsuch. And I hope that that spirit kind of cascades and that we do what we've done historically, which is to listen and then express our opinions on the confirmations. So I think it's premature to say what direction we could go, but I would take Senator McConnell at his word, as I always do, that he will be confirmed.
Last question. I'm only saying it because it's outside to this noise going on right now, and that the issue of tax cuts. As you know, Senator, the markets go up and down of late on just the prospect of whether they see tax cuts going through or not this year. Now, right now, up largely on the belief that they've heard from the president and they've heard from others that the goal is still to get tax cuts on the table and done maybe this year. How doable is that in your eyes? You're right there on the front lines.
I am, and Speaker Ryan just walked by, and he's one of the main architects and also one of the main policy people that's helping us to formulate a tax reform. There's a lot of buy-in on both sides. I do believe tax cuts will come forward by the end of the year. Might be in a bigger package. I think the economy, the confidence in the economy really relies on it and relies on us fulfilling our word. And I would hope that the dysfunction we're seeing around the cabinet positions would dissipate and we can get back to the business of getting people back to work.
Senator, thank you for joining us. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.